Well, Rod, I'd like to introduce you to Virginia. Virginia was our Rookie of the Year in 2018.
Okay,
She did $4 million worth of volume that year,
nice.
and decided she needed to work in an office environment. So went to another broker, and dang, COVID hit, and she's back, and we're
All right.
delighted.
Oh, there you go. Just as we're getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah,
welcome back.
Thank you.
y'all both kind of neighbors down south.
I'm off of Abilene Trail.
Oh, okay. I'm in Buda.
Oh, Buda. Okay, wow.
Yeah.
That's way south.
I don't think it's that far south, but
Well,
yeah,
for South Austin is it's so far south it's not even in Austin.
that's right. I've sold houses on Abilene Trail, so it's not that far away.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump into where we are with our business system project. Um, yeah, Virginia, to kind of bring you up to speed, we're looking at these four different business system areas and yeah, looking at developing workflows to make sure that we're being as efficient and effective as possible. So the uh, the lead generation stuff, we've pretty much finished that up with Amy did a great one on working with the Sphere. We talked about Facebook, leasing agents, investors. The follow-up systems, KV Core is wonderful for that. In case you haven't heard, KV Core is going to go away. We purchased Neighborly. And so it's pretty exciting that Fathom continues to acquire companies that will allow us to kind of be the one-stop shop where we can provide everything that our agents and our clients need. And then tracking the numbers, KV Core works real well for that on tracking your lead generation programs, your return on investment, how they're producing, where your leads are coming from, all that kind of stuff. So tonight we're going to jump into booking the listing appointment checklist. Everybody that was on the call last session wanted to jump into sellers uh, system. So here we go. So booking the listing appointment. So I'm curious, do you use one call or two calls for the listing appointment?
It depends for me.
Okay.
Um, Today I had I guess today was my first call, and it'll probably be another call before we actually agree on it, um, because they're still trying to decide whether or not they're going to sell. But my other two listings I just recently got, it was just one call because they were in my sphere, and we've been kind of one of them we'd been talking about selling their house for years, and they just decided it's the right time, and then another one just decided spontaneously that they wanted to sell their house because it was the right time.
Yay, more
Yeah.
listings. How many houses in January do you think were at the end of January? How many do you think were on the market in the 5 county Austin Round Rock metropolitan statistical area?
450.
Not bad. 1,326.
Wow.
Usually it's 5,500 in January for the
Mm-hmm.
last 5 years. So thank you for bringing more inventory on. Bring more.
You're welcome. It won't last long, so.
Yeah, I know that's right. So I started out doing the one call. I would do all my research. I'd put together my listing presentation with my comps, my recommended sales price, all that kind of stuff. And then I would show up and, the place would be a wreck. It needed major work on the deferred maintenance. My numbers were way off and it made me look stupid. Or conversely, it would be way better than what I anticipated. So my numbers were low. So I adopted the two call approach where the first call, the goals are number one, to develop rapport with the seller. And then number two, to assess the property condition. So when I'm doing my comps, I'm really doing good comparables and good adjustments based on that super important condition component of the CMA. So yeah, I teach all my students the 2-call, but yeah, ultimately it's up to you and what works for you. So let's talk about preparing for the appointment. This is information I pulled off of a website that I thought was interesting. I don't agree with all of it, but I thought it would be good to kind of guide our discussion this evening. So the first step that's recommended is, open your listing folder and follow the system you have set up, which is we're working on here. Pull the property tax records. That's always the very first thing I do. I go to Realist. I want to learn everything I can about that property. And the automated valuation model is good just as a point of reference. I'm certainly not going to depend on it for my suggested list price, but it gives you a good ballpark idea where we're at. So the next one is pull a floor plan map. Do you know how to get a floor plan map? I don't either. And I'm not really sure what the value of that is. So yeah, I'll be marking that one off the list. So this I do. I Google the people, look at all the different social medias, so I can learn as much about them so that I can figure out how I'm going to relate to them, develop that rapport. Are y'all familiar with Forewarn? Yeah, I love Forewarn. It's a background screening app for realtors only. What, $20 a month, I think it is. It's awesome. You can see people's criminal history, judgments, bankruptcies, properties, vehicles, aliases, phone numbers. It's a lot
I use
of
it all the
great
time.
information. The very first time I used it, a realtor.com lead wanted to meet me at a vacant property. I ran him through there and saw that he had a conviction for assault. So, I met with him, but I was certainly much more cautious than I would have been otherwise. And it went fine, but it was good to be forewarned. So,
You carry too, right?
anytime I leave the house,
Okay. So there you go.
yeah. Well,
you
but
were
still, yeah, the element of surprise
right.
can really put you at a disadvantage. So, yeah, if you at least have some indication that you might need to be cautious, that's always beneficial. It's been well worth the $20 a month. So next up, pull the market comparables. Yeah, pretty obvious that you'll need that data. 3 to 6 months in this market. 3 months is certainly sufficient in some market areas. In my area, we start with 12 and work back. But the goal is you want 3 solid sold comps to work off of. And then, 3 to 6 is what they recommend. 2 active, 2 sold, 2 pending, 2 backup. The pending and the backup, those are active as far as I'm concerned. You need those 3 sold. So we're always shooting for the comparable number of bedrooms, bathrooms, square feet you built, trying to get all that as similar as possible. A color map of the comparables used. Not something that I'm aware of or I've even taken a look at. I use Cloud CMA, love it. It's worth every bit of the 300 or however much it is a year for all the time that it saves me. And it's got a nice map that shows all the comps, but no color map. So book the appointment to preview the property. So that's really my first call. Did you preview the properties that you were looking to list on those 1-call appointments?
No. The spontaneous one, I know the people. but I haven't actually been to their house in like, I don't know, 6-10 years, something like that. It's been a really long time. But I know the quality of people that they are. So they live like they're in a model home. So I really wasn't overly worried. And I kind of had a general idea of what the floor plan was and all that.
Good.
It depends. It depends. I mean, the next listing I have coming up, I'm going to go and look at the house because I'm not familiar with it at all. Don't know the people. So.
Okay, good. So the next thing that was recommended was sending the net sheet. And why you would do that prior to your listing presentation doesn't make a lot of sense to me. How do you, I guess, when and how do you present the net sheet?
The last few calls I've done, I've just gone over it with quickly on the phone. I find out, I've already run comps a little bit, so I have a general idea of where their house should be based on the area. And I ask them point blank what their payoff is. And in today's market, sellers are not paying for anything. So right now it's fairly easy. I mean, I do still use Independence Title's net sheet calculator for title expenses. So I kind of have a general rough idea, but then as we get further along, if they want very specifics, then I present that. But we usually generally talk about it on the phone.
Okay, good. Do you prepare the listing agreement prior to the appointment?
Mm-hmm. I do.
I was taught not to do that because you waste a lot of paper. I'll put it in the back cover of my listing presentation. And again, like you said, it kind of depends. If they were a referral, they're a really warm lead, I'm not worried about competing with anybody else, then, at the end of the listing presentation, they agree to move forward, then, I tell them, I will email you a draft listing agreement. We'll review it, and if there's any changes, we'll make those. And once it's good to go, then I'll send it to you for electronic signatures. If it's not a warm lead and I'm concerned I may have other competition, I may try to go ahead and get it signed right there. We'll fill it out. I've got my template with things that never change. I do not go through and fill out every blank. Do you?
No, I mean, I just fill out the ones we use all the time. I noticed though, this last one, I used, what is it? Authentisign. Is that what I've started using that you told me to use? And it sent it over and it put in the optional areas for the signatures for name withheld. And then the other paragraphs about not putting on MLS for a certain number of days. And then there's a few other spots that have optional signatures, and Authentisign already put those in there. And so my client just went ahead and signed them all. Oh well, they're optional. It's okay.
Interesting. I've never had put optional in there.
It did it automatically, and it says optional. So where it says name withheld, it put an optional spot in there, and it says optional. So the color is different than the normal signature and initial.
I'll have to check my settings. I've seen that the optional stuff is available, and I really hadn't paid any attention, but now that you mention it, I mean, it could be good to, when you send that draft one to them, put some optional stuff in there. Yeah. Interesting.
It auto-filled it. And the name withheld, I didn't have a problem with because of his position and his job. So I figured that's fine. And so when they signed that, I understood, but they inadvertently signed the other spots, but we didn't check the box on the left. So.
Okay. Are you using zip forms or transaction desks for your doc pro?
Zip form. Well, it goes to, zip form.
Yeah, Rod and I were texting a little bit today. I started out on zip form, real comfortable with that. For whatever reason, I thought I'd give Transaction Desk a try because a lot of people like it. And it does a lot more autofilling
Yes.
than zip form does.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to transition my way over there. Either way, you know, the digital ink, AuthentiSign, I like that so much better than DocuSign.
Mhm.
I've not used DocuSign in a couple of years. AuthentiSign used to be just maddening. It was just you had to drag the signature thing for every one of them. You had to resize every one of them. It was just horrible. And then a couple of years ago, they got their act together, and I actually like it better than DocuSign. What's DocuSign? $350 a year or something?
Yeah, I just paid it.
Yeah. Don't do that no more.
I was like, oh, I was going to do monthly. I was like, I'm going to do it for yearly. And now you're telling me not to use it anymore. So I'm like, wah, 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 wah.
Something I need to add to my to my mentoring sessions, I guess.
Yes.
So yeah, obviously, the agency disclosure, the listing agreement, 6 month. Do you ever deviate from your 6 month listing?
I don't think I think maybe in one case, but generally no.
I've got one coming up next week. It has been listed by two different agents with horrible photos, a poor property description. Only marketing was thrown on the MLS, and they really got bad service. And they've asked for a 90-day agreement, and I'm going to do it. I've not done a 90-day before. I'm going to do it and see how it goes. I think when after weeks of every Monday that they get the report that shows how it's performing on the MLS and realtor.com and Zillow and YouTube and Facebook. I think when they get that week after week, I think they'll stick with me.
Mhm.
Six
In this market,
percent.
it probably won't last 90 days.
No, not at all.
Well, there's two things that I can see that might explain why it was on the market for two listings. First one, obviously the marketing. The second one, the neighborhood has a mix of properties. There's several not attractive mobile homes in the area. So the way I explained the strategy to the seller was, let's fix the marketing first and see how that does. And if that doesn't change things, then we know it's the mobile homes in the area that are dragging down the value, and we'll need to price it appropriately. So
Mhm.
yeah, we should be able to get it done in 90 days. Exclusive, won't do anything else, but easy exit. Oh gosh, they're all easy exit. They want to terminate it and off you go. Do you charge a fee for early termination of a listing agreement?
I charge, well, I put it in there for reimbursable expenses for my photography.
How much?
Up to 500.
No, I just do a flat 500
Yeah.
to cover my photography and, to get a little bit, a few dollars per hour for the
Right.
time that I've put in.
I mean, there was one listing that got pulled, actually two, and I've never gone back after them for it. I put it in there in case I get really upset.
Yeah, it discourages a early termination. Yeah, I'm with you. There could be occasions where I'd go after them, but there'd have to be some pretty good reason, because I mean, you damage your reputation, and
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think
definitely.
it's on price point too. So my recent listing is over 600, and I didn't include that in there. I thought, you know what, this is just cost of doing business. It's a, $630,000 listing. It's probably going to go for 700. I think I can suck that up.
Right. Cool. And do you do a price reduction schedule?
I do not. I have tried to do it and they keep fighting me on it, so I don't. And I really only had one client recently that had an issue with it. It was a couple of years ago, or 2019. And they priced it way too high and we were button heads the whole time. I even fired them and they came back. They were just very, very, very difficult clients. And once we finally reduced it to where I said it should be, we had multiple offers in a weekend.
Imagine that.
And they finally said, "You were right."
Yep, yep. Yeah, I don't, if they insist on overpricing, then yeah, I'm gonna do a price reduction schedule. I can't remember what it is offhand. I'll share that later. I've got it in a spreadsheet where you plug in what the sales price is and the reduction that we do on the timetable.
Mhm.
Because I just don't have time to mess around with listings that aren't going to sell. Pre-listing package. Do you use one?
No.
You know, yeah, I don't either. I'm always looking for ways to improve, and so I'm kind of looking at it. That's one of the things that's required that I teach in the mentoring program, so I cover it. Having a bio, that's kind of tough when you're new.
Yeah.
For instead of a bio, I actually include a copy of my resume at the end of the listing presentation. I don't go through it. I just leave it there for them to read later.
Mhm.
The list of references, absolutely. I have a full page of testimonials. Inventory report, how many properties I have listed. I don't do huge amount of volume, so that's really not appropriate. My team with info on them. I think what we're talking about there is the lending, or the loan officer, the escrow officer, the inspector. That's one of the things that after look at this, and one of the things I'm going to add to the listing presentation is, you're not just hiring me, you're hiring this team.
Mhm.
Do you do anything like that?
I don't, because all my sellers are usually from my warm or very warm sphere. So I don't. If they're going to buy something else, then yeah, we talk about it. But a lot of my sellers are selling and moving out of the area.
When you present the list price, do you do a range or a dead on number?
I think it depends on the client.
Yeah,
I gave these two a dead on number and they agreed with it. So, but I have backup for it. So
right. How many points is your marketing plan?
I haven't counted my points.
Mine's probably about 30. And part of that is to illustrate I'm doing things that a lot of other agents aren't doing. All the disclosure stuff, you use Seller Shield, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that Seller Shield takes care of that. I don't fool with that. And the listing agreement ready to be signed. Yeah, I mean, it's in the back of the folder. It kind of depends on the situation. What about market stats?
I don't have anything, like I don't put together a pre-listing package and overnight it to anyone. It's because again, it's my warm market. And so we just talk. I go through the stats with them and they, like my listing that's going live tomorrow, they've got plenty of realtors. They stuck with me because I've had the relationship with them over the last few years. And I've been showing them properties and helping them through their family situation. So we talk about it. they hear it from everywhere else, what the stats are, but I don't do like a formal stat sheet.
Yeah, this last listing presentation I did was the first time that I actually did a little market thing in there. Yeah, again, yeah, I present my CMA listing presentation on a binder that I leave with them. So I don't spend a lot of time talking about it. I just kind of highlight it. I think that's helpful. It's not as important with your warm sphere like you're talking about because that credibility is already there. But
Right.
if they're not, I think that having those market stats, I think helps with your credibility. Call to pre-qualify and confirm the appointment. Well, yeah, you don't have to get stood up on many appointments before you learn to call and confirm.
I still call and confirm though.
Yep. And then role play over any objections over the pre-qual. Not really. I mean, you learn your scripts and should be good there.
Well, and I have to say this was the first time, these two listings, where there was absolutely no comment or any objection whatsoever about the 6%. I was very excited. I did not have to have that conversation.
The last few I've done have been that way as well. And some of them have been real upfront that, you know, hey, I know sellers try to negotiate. Yeah, I think that you provide value and that you're worth the money, and I don't have a problem with it. It's like awesome. Okay, finally, get your sign, your lockbox, business cards, flyer, all that kind of stuff. I don't do any of that until after we've signed the listing agreement. Typically, we're not going to put it on the market the next day.
Right. So that's an issue I have because, you know, so a lot of my listing agreements, I've had to put in the date. So in paragraph B, I talk about the date that it'll go live because we have to get an MLS from 5 days after signing the agreement. I can't get photographers out. They can't get the house ready.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah.
So I don't do that last line.
Yeah, same
because
here.
We can't do coming soons. If we could do a coming soon, then it'd be totally fine.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I use B almost all the time because we have recommendations on, well, you know, I talk about my marketing plan and then I talk about their marketing plan, things that you need to do to help us market the property. So, you know, the one that's coming up next week, they need to power wash the deck and they need to do a little bit of landscaping and they need to do some decluttering and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's rare. It's like, yeah, we're good to go and we're going to put this thing on the MLS. Of course, on the other end of the spectrum is you're not going to get that house ready in a month. It's just, it is so bad that, yeah, but let's get it out there and get it done. Okay, so I'm going to take this and kind of, you know, pare it down to, I think what most of us do and get it into a workflow. What are some things that you can think about as far as preparing for the appointment that hasn't been mentioned here?
I can't think of anything offhand that we haven't already talked about.
Okay. Any input, Rod?
No, I'm just waiting for my first listing. I didn't get my signs though,
Good.
so I'm ready to go. Doing that probate thing too, so we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, tell me what you're doing with that again.
Well, so I'm trying to research it. There's a couple of companies that I'm trying to sign with. I called up MTI today, and they got wonky on the price. They offered me a certain price and then said, "Oh no, that was only available for 2 hours." And I was like, 2 hours? So that sounds really fishy. And then I don't know. I mean, I've gone online. There's a couple other companies too as well. So before I fire the trigger, I mean, I'm going to do it, but I want to find the best, company out there, because a lot of them are kind of the MTI thing. I don't know. I mean, um, HAR is recommending them, so people in Houston are doing it, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm just
Have you
the lady
looked
kind
at
of walked. What's that?
have you looked at alltheleads.com?
Yeah, they're really pricey, man. They want like $3,000 a month
Ooh, for Austin.
for listing. Yeah, I was just like, you don't need three. This other one was $67 a month. So there's a big, big difference.
Wow.
So I'm like, why do you want $3,000? I mean, it's just it sounds like, I don't know. It doesn't sound like anybody's got a real kind of lock on this or whatever. It's all over the place. And so I definitely want to do it, and I definitely think that since you recommended it, I think that that's one thing that I'd really like to go after, since there's just no inventory right now. I don't have a big huge sphere that I can draw from. So that's something I definitely want to explore. If it doesn't work out, it's not going to cost me a whole hell of a lot, but I am not signing up for $3,000 a month. There's just
No. When I was in Dallas Fort Worth before I was district director, and my income was totally dependent on my sales. I worked the probate market, and I looked at alltheleads.com and MTI and these other places, and they're slow. They're typically, if somebody files for probate today, they'll send you that information 30 to 45 days later. Well, I started doing a little bit of research. When people file for probate, they are ready to go, and that house is going to be listed pretty quickly. So I just started doing it manually myself. I pulled a list and wrote some letters, used Excel, mail merge, and sent a bunch of direct mail out, and got some good listings that way.
Okay, well, so I'm going to definitely use you as a mentor for that too as well, since you've actually done it before.
Okay.
Yeah, the whole, and I don't mind going down to the courthouse either. That's not a problem for me. I like doing that kind of stuff actually. So
And a year ago, it was so much easier. The Travis County Courthouse probate records, every document in the file was available online. The death certificate, the will, I mean, all the motions. And then I guess them stinking investors started being too aggressive marketing to it, and they've really pared it back. So I think it takes a little more research. That's what I dealt with in Tarrant County and Fort Worth, was that there was limited information. You had to do a little bit of research, but people typically list with the first agent they talk to, and so being there first, I think is real important. So I've got some templates. You're in Travis County, right?
right.
Let me go back and look at their current probate website, and we'll get together on that.
Yeah.
This is Thursday. Saturday, do you have some free time?
Sure.
How about, man, it's almost March.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I've got a 1 o'clock on Saturday. How about 10:30?
10:30 on Saturday.
Yeah.
That'll work.
Rod, do you want to hang out an open house with me on Saturday after your meeting?
Sure.
It's off of Convict Hill.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that'll work.
Awesome. Thank you,
I'll get your
Virginia.
info after our meeting and I'll text you.
Sure. So just write it down. It's 512-963-8761.
963 what?
8761.
Okay.
Ooh, that reminds me, I need to update our map. If you go in IntelliAgent and resources, there's a map of all of our agents and a little dot on where they're at, and their phone and email is there as well. So
Okay.
I need to update that with your information. Cool. Well, I always try to keep this under an hour, and it's like I've been successful at that today. I'll get this into a checklist, and our next session will be on the 11th, and we'll get into preparing the CMA and the listing presentation materials.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you all for taking time out to join us this evening.
Hey, no problem.
Thanks,
Thanks for offering the open house thing. That's going to be fun.
Oh, you're welcome. It's always good to have a buddy. It's
Yeah.
gonna be, I'm gonna be there for about 4 hours, but we'll chat afterwards.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Y'all have a good evening.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Bye.